kidnappings, but failed to mention Islam or even Boko Haram.
This unconscionable act was committed by a terrorist group determined to keep these girls from getting an education. In these girls, Barack and I see our own daughters.
Well, the First Lady has taken part, though, in a new hashtag campaign to bring back our girls. Mike Rogers, George Will, and Brit Hume think America is going to need a tougher foreign policy than that.
You can't base your policy on what's trending on Twitter. It has to be more than hashtags and selfies.
It's an exercise in self-esteem. I do not know how adults stand there facing a camera and say, bring back our girls. Are these barbarians in the wilds of Nigeria supposed to check their Twitter accounts and say, oh, Michelle Obama is very cross with us, we better change our behavior?
It's trending. It's trending on Twitter.
Power is the ability to achieve intended effects, and this is not intended to have any effect on the real world.
All right, this is a tough one, so we're going to put bowling on the hot seat on that because, you know, you're going to criticize, right, the First Lady. She's trying to be involved. She's trying to send a message and communicate.
I think it's great. I think she did the right thing. I think hashtag bring back our girls, which I think was credited to someone else. However, I think you need to keep it in the media because it's a trendy, cool hashtag where everyone's talking about it. They're doing what they need to be doing. We all need to continue to talk about this, continue to put pressure. The Nigerian government is asking for our help. We're giving our help in the form of some Secret Service, I believe CIA, some covert operations, maybe some financial aid, doing exactly what we're supposed to do. What we didn't do, and again, let me clarify, Hillary Clinton had a chance to put this group on the foreign terrorist organization, opening up a whole slew of different types of assets that we now can do if they chose to do it, since John Kerry put them on the foreign terrorist organization. So we have a 2-year kind of window that we lost. But they're doing what they have to do. They're doing what they can do. I disagree with George Will and Brit Hume. I think you need to stay in the media, and the way to do that is stay relevant on social media and continue the pressure.
Okay, so it's part of the overall approach, right? You have to have kind of an idea, a game plan. Let's hit it on social media. Let's create public awareness. Do you like how they're handling it from a communication perspective from this administration?
I always think that you could do a few things differently. Plus, I don't operate with all of the facts and knowledge that they have. There could be a specific reason that the First Lady did not mention Boko Haram. They might have said that it would not be a good idea for her to do so because maybe they have some sort of intel about the psychological state of these terrorists, that maybe they want her to do that. So that, I give her a pass on that one, of course. And I don't think that anyone in the world actually thinks that a Twitter hashtag is going to solve the problem. I do think that the White House made a communications mistake in this, however. I think they should have paired the selfie that or the picture that she took of Bring Back Our Girls with some sort of, at the same time, policy statement declaring why we have a national interest here and why we should do something. I think they missed an opportunity. So again, that the cart was before the horse and everybody started making fun of the hashtag. Well, not everybody, but some. If I could just say one other thing on this, which is it's the Nigerians that are, as a government, that is the incompetent one here, not the United States. The Nigerians are incapable of helping themselves, and they also, we find out today, refused help from the Brits 3 days after the girls were taken. So I do think we have a national interest. I think we have one now in the immediate term to try to bring them back. I agree with that. However, we have to decide, are we going to help these governments get up to speed so that we don't have to go in and try to help them? That's where I think our foreign policy is not set enough. I feel like we get whipsawed by these events, and the White House would be, I think, better served by giving a full-on speech that explains where we are in the war on terror. It's not a war we asked for, but it's one we can win.
And having some consistency, both in the way they act and the places that they choose to get involved with, and, you know, from a U.S. standpoint, U.S. interest, to have some kind of consistency so there isn't this disparity where it's a confusing foreign policy message that we send, Brian. How do you see the situation?
I see it very simple. Islamic extremists. That's what they're about. That's why they're dressed the way they're not just crazy people. They're Islamic extremists who want to get their philosophy across. If I'm a Muslim, I'm more outraged than anybody. You're screwing with my religion. You're making us look bad. They should be standing up saying This has to stop, and it has to stop now.
And they will.
We are pretending as if we're not at war with them, but they are at war with us. They are taking over the continent of Africa. It is so beyond criticizing a president or a hashtag. It is big picture stuff. The president has pleasantly surprised a lot of people, including me, with the drone program. I love what he's doing, what he did in Yemen 2.5 weeks ago. Just come out and say it. We're going to help these governments continue to ward off the extremists in their midst who are ruthless and do anything. And we have to find a way. They're the bad guys. We're the good guys. To find those kids and bring them out. And then help Chad, like Mike Rogers went on to say, and help Kenya, who had the massacre in the malls, and stop playing defense and get on the offense. Mike Sheen of West Point came out over the weekend, an expert, and said the only way to stop it is to continue to push back on the jihad everywhere we go.
Bob, you've been saying that as well from the beginning.
I've been saying it for a long time, but let me make a couple comments. I think Eric's exactly right. If hashtag does nothing else, it forces the news media to realize how many people are interested in this subject and put it on the front page of the newspaper.
Propels coverage.
It also puts it in Europe, and it embarrasses the Nigerians. I don't think there are a lot of these Muslim countries that want the help, because I think in their own way, the heads of these governments want to see these terrorists continue to work. I think the Saudis have funded the terrorists for years, and they know it. They happen to send their money to Pakistan to do it. But we won't mess with the Saudis. Why? Because our national interest is in oil. It's not in taking on the Saudis. That's number one. Number two, when you say this is not about, why don't Muslims stand up and say this is a war on their religion, and yet we have to carry the ball for them because they're too cowardly to do it themselves. I'm waiting to hear back from the Saudi embassy. I'm waiting to hear back from the Egyptian embassy about this, who still have no comment. And I'm waiting for the first cleric or imam who has the guts to say that this is not what Muhammad meant, and if you don't, I'll just assume it's what he did mean.
Can I add to that a little bit, Brian? You mentioned Islamic extremism, and Bob, you mentioned you're waiting. So I went to CARE, the CARE website, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and I'm wondering how many. These girls have been kidnapped for a month. So there have been 30 opportunities to put it on their front page.
And help
They
from
had two
outside
opportunities
forces.
where they kind of say, they say this was a bad thing, this is shining a bad light on Islam. However, today, and where their biggest concern in the world is not those 200 or 300 young women who are kidnapped. Their biggest concern, especially today and the last few days, has been the 9/11 museum film where the film actually says Islamic extremism. They hate that term. So now, Brian, they're more mad at you probably for saying Islamic extremism, or me, than they are Boko Haram.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they should be. You're right, Bob. They should be calling this out on a daily basis. We are. Why aren't they?
Right, exactly.
Brian, and then we'll get
just
to
real
Bill
quick,
Maher.
and I saw you jotting some stuff down. London Daily Mail did that story, and they say, well, we've decided there's some of their curriculum. They're pulling back on teaching the Holocaust and the Crusades because it offends Muslims in the school system in London. We're like the Western world, the civilized world is terrified of upsetting a bunch of crazy
We have
lunatics.
become so timid. It's become
way too
PC.
timid.
When
We're
we should be
afraid of an all-out war. We're afraid of
courageous.
admitting that we got to take the gloves off and go at it.
Well, let's take those things they're pulling back on and put them on the front burner, Islamic terrorists.
Bob, I want to see if you agree here with Bill Maher, because we're talking about that. This has become sort of the cowering in the dark while Islamic extremists sit there like the bullies, of the world and get to run rampant over Christianity and everything else. So that's why these girls were targeted. Take a listen to Bill Maher and see if this surprises you.
There was a Pew poll of Egypt, and something like 80 or 90% believe that death is the proper punishment for leaving the religion. If 84% of Brazilians thought that death was the proper penalty for leaving Catholicism, wouldn't that be a bigger story?
Yeah, but the point is that you cannot put all that together with the entire Islam or all Muslims.
Where it becomes dangerous is that liberals like yourself do not stand up for liberalism. Liberalism means, mostly equality of women.
Yes.
Free speech.
And there's also
no death threats.
Okay, he's actually standing up. I think he's got it right this time. Cautiously optimistic to say that, Brian. We'll take it around the table.
I just real quick. We're splitting hairs by saying women are paying 12 cents less or more than men.
Yeah.
If you really cared about women's rights and you want to look globally, because everyone's accusing America of being too focused on ourselves, look around. And by the way, if we leave Afghanistan prematurely, what do you think is going to happen to all those women in that country? Out of school, put the burqas on, back of the room, no more education.
What have we
should think about
accomplished
that.
then?
Yeah,
Dana.
zero.
Well, I was just thinking about CARE, and remember the other big problem that they had a few weeks ago was that film, The Honor Diaries.
Yep.
And remember they came on with Megyn Kelly's show, and they had this big blow up because they were outraged and they didn't want any girls. And 2 universities in America pulled the film back so that we wouldn't offend Muslims by showing it. But what's happening to these young women who were apparently today, Boko Haram said that they have now converted to Islam. That was the forced conversion of these girls. The Honor Diaries was actually talking about that very thing. So it tells me that CARE is probably getting more funding for its operation from people who are concerned about this film down at the 9/11 site, and also for Honor Diaries, but not really. I think that if we are expecting CARE to come out and say something,
get it.
We'll be waiting
I think
forever.
that's never going to happen.
It really could be the PR wing of Islamic extremism. Sorry, CARE. Ibrahim Hooper, call me, email me, do whatever you're going to do. But I honestly believe that. If you look back over the last maybe 20 years or so, just about every single terror attack, most terror attacks, a vast majority of terror attacks can be linked back to some sort of Islamic extremism, some sort of Islamic fundamentalist funding, if not ideology as well. So why not? You have to say, if you want to look forward, focus on that group. Sorry, we're not indicting the whole group. Not every Muslim is an extremist. However, if you're going to look at a group, hey, look at that group. I can't remember any Christians blowing up airplanes or buildings in the last 20 years.
And if they were, I'd be the first one to be outraged.
Absolutely.
Why is this tolerated,
It's not
Bob?
our responsibility to defend Afghanistan against the Taliban ad infinitum. I mean, at some point, the Afghanistan government has got to say, this branch of Islam is unacceptable to us. And any Muslim country that doesn't do that, then I say, to hell with them. Let us stop having economic relations with them. Let's isolate them as much as possible. Anybody who practices Sharia law ought to be a rogue state and treated as such.
You don't understand. The Taliban have the guns and the weaponry and the financing. If we leave prematurely without standing up their army, and they're about a year away, we have wasted our time.
Fine, if we spend another year getting the army together, then I'm all for that. But I'm saying we cannot police the Muslim world because they're afraid to police themselves.
Well, they need to stand
exactly
up.
what it's about.
They need to stand up and do
Or they
something
agree
about
with
it.
this stuff. That's the thing that worries me. It's beginning to believe there are a lot more Muslims than 85. I'm not sure there's 85% moderate Muslims. If they believe in this crap and they believe in women being treated this way, then they're no different than the Islamic terrorists, and they all ought to be ostracized and become rogue states.
All right, well, something will come of that. Eric's...
Love is so